All right, fans, I'm joined now by former OVW heavyweight champion, former OVW Southern Tag Team champion, Vaughn Lilas. How you doing, Vaughn?
Good, man. Yourself?
Doing pretty good, doing pretty good. Thanks for joining me on the Final Count Spotlight. I'm glad we can get this get this done and get this scheduled.
Yeah, right on. Let's do it.
All right. So when did you decide to get into the pro wrestling business?
When did I decide to get into pro wrestling?
Yes.
Oh man, I don't. I mean, I was always as a kid, I always loved it. Grew up on Channel 3 wrestling, Memphis wrestling, Louisville Gardens wrestling, whatever you want to call it. Jerry the King Lawler and that crew. Um, Rip Rogers, of course. I'm from Seymour, Indiana. Rip Rogers, also from Seymour, Indiana. So I followed his career as well. And he would come back home every once in a while and run shows in Seymour. And my dad would help promote the shows. And so I would go and help set up chairs and concessions and do things like that as a kid. So I was hooked that way from the get go. But always kind of bothered Rip about trying to get in, wanted to get in the business and be a wrestler. And he said I had to go to college first, had to get a job first, had to do this, that, and the other. So shoot, by the time I ever really got into it, I was about 27. I was coaching, teaching in Muncie. And and we were trying to do some fundraisers for the baseball team. I was coaching baseball, and Rip got a hold of me. He said, "Hey, why don't you run a wrestling show as the fundraiser?" That's when I think he was training. I think he was the head trainer at OVW at the time. He said, "Run a wrestling show. We'll get you involved, and it can be a fundraiser." And I did that show. I beat John Cena that night. Got a victory over John Cena, and I was hooked after that, man. So I joined
That,
Nick Dinsmore's class, Eugene, that next summer down at the old building in Jeffersonville at OVW, and was taking his classes on Saturdays at that point in time. I would drive from Muncie to Louisville on Saturdays for class, do the TV or whatever that night. Sometimes there was a show Friday night. I'd go early to the show Friday. Sometimes it'd be a Sunday show. I'd do the Sunday show, and then I'd go back to Muncie for the week and teach.
nice.
So I
So
don't
you
know if that
grew.
answered your question or not, but
Oh yeah,
that's
no. So you grew up around the business basically.
yeah, for the most part. I mean, I got pictures of Rip coming over to the house when I was 5 years old. I think one of them was 4 or 5 years old. I got one that was dated. I think it was 1978. I was born in 73, and it was at the National Guard Armory, and he's holding me up, and then a couple from my house too. So yeah, it was like Christmas when Rip would come around. He was always in gimmick. He'd always have the bleach blonde hair, the headbands on. He'd take his shirt off when he'd come over, pose with us, and all that good stuff. So yeah, man, I went to shows at the Armory all the time. We went to the Louisville Gardens every once in a while, not very often, but every once in a while. But always at the Seymour National Guard Army. Whenever there was big time wrestling out there, I was there every time.
Right, right. Now, who were some of your inspirations that you enjoyed watching that inspired you to really get into the business?
I'm not sure anybody that I ever watched inspired me. I would say Rip was my connection. I would say if somebody was going to inspire me, it would be him. People I enjoyed watching as a kid. Of course, I liked Lawler. I was always drawn to the people kind of like Rip. I liked the Boogie Woogie Man, handsome Jimmy Valiant. I liked um, Austin Idol. I like Jesse the Body Ventura. I liked all those superstar Billy Graham when he wore the long feathered earrings. I always liked those kind of guys. I like the Freebirds, Michael P.S. Hayes. I don't know, flamboyance the word, the
Flamboyant, yeah, yeah.
whatever those kind of wrestlers were. I was always drawn to those kind of wrestlers. I was not really like that at all myself, but those are the kind of wrestlers I was drawn to.
Now, were you initially trained by Nick Dinsmore? Is that who you were initially trained by?
Yeah, so I went to on Saturdays. Like I said, on Saturdays I'd go to the old building in Jeffersonville. The original, I don't know if it's the original. I think there was even one before that, but pretty much the original. Danny Davis, whatever was called at the time. Yeah, so Nick on Saturdays, and it was just like a 2-3 hour class, something like that. And then I think it was the next summer, Rip they moved to the new building, and Rip was doing the contract. Well, they had let some guys in as non-contract wrestlers to train with the contract guys. And for that summer, well, a couple summers, Rip had me in there with the contract guys. So I was in Rip's class then.
Nice, nice. What was the training like with Nick?
Nick was Nick was cool. We did some, I don't know, some warm up, calisthenics, squats. He didn't do too much of the cardio stuff. Most of it came through wrestling, but a lot of it, I mean, at that time, man, there was so many people at that little building. I remember showing up and there was like 6 new people on that Saturday, and there was so many people in that little building. I mean, people were chain wrestling and stuff just on the outside, in the aisleways, wherever you could find a spot. That ring was real little, so you couldn't get a ton of people in there at a time. So, they would go through, they had a couple different drills, a couple different blow up drills, tackle drop down, different spots where they'd hit, you always start out hitting the ropes and all that. And so then he would have, when they would take kind of a break, then he would have the new guys come in and girls learn to take some flat back bumps, run the ropes, things like that. Um, which was cool. I still was, it wasn't easy. I like I said, I think there was 6 when I went. I was the only one that went back the next Saturday. So we all went, paid our money, whatever on that Saturday. I was the only one that came back, but there were still tons of people. Nick did a lot of like practice matches. He would pair you up, with maybe at a tag team and another tag team, and you would go over maybe not a whole match, but like a segment of a match because there were so many people. So then it'd be your turn, and you guys would go in and run your spot or whatever. It wouldn't be necessarily a whole match all the time. But different moves like, hey, all right, today we're gonna work on, like the body slam or the tackle drop down or the just what a suplex, and you'd practice different things. But Nick, I've always said that Nick, in my opinion, he's top. I never want to say somebody's the best, but he's top,
Right.
3. Just you can get in the ring with Nick and you can be nobody and you can have a decent match with Nick Dinsmore. He's that good. I think Nick is just phenomenal. His psychology, being able to call it in the ring, being able to work with anybody, being able to slow anybody down, being able to make anybody comfortable in the ring. I had my first real singles match with Nick, and it was just awesome, man. Love everything about the guy.
We'll get into that match a little bit later, but I want to talk to you about your first match. Do you remember your first match, and if so, what was that like?
Well, I guess it depends if you're talking like a battle royal or a real match. My first time I ever really kind of had a match, it was out at the Seymour National Guard Armory. This was before I ever was trained, and this was before the contract came in. But this would have been like the OVW days with the Damage, Doug Basham, Jason Lee, Trailer Park Trash, Flash Flanagan, Rod Steele, those kind of guys. And it was in Seymour, which is my hometown. Rip was running the show, and he said, "Hey," and I've been kind of on him a little bit about wanting to get in wrestling. He said, "You want to get into the Battle Royal tonight?" I'd never been in a ring before in my life, and I said, "Sure." I mean, I couldn't say no because I was scared to death, but I couldn't say no because I'd been on Rip like, "Hey, I can do this. Let me in there." So then he said, "All right, get in," and they just they beat me half to death. Steel Man, Rod Steele, Scott Sandlin, Jason Lee, Trash, Flash. They just took turns chopping me, passing me around, and it was brutal, but it was awesome. So I had that. Then fast forward probably a few years after that, I started training a little bit, and then no, actually I hadn't started training yet. Fast forward, we did the fundraiser, another battle royal. That would have been Cena, O'Hare, Jindrak, Red Dog. I mean, that whole crew. and they had it set up to where I got like damage it through some powder in my eye, so I wasn't in there the whole time. But then I made the big comeback, and or I hit the ring. They got the powder out of my eyes just in time to come and save Nick. He was in there with Cena and Danny Basham, Damager, and they all did some stuff. I got a low blow done to me, and they did a bunch of stuff where they all ended up going out. So I was the only one left in there, baby. So that's what my claim to fame. I tell everybody I beat John Cena that night. So I still hadn't been trained yet. So I'd had 2 battle royals with zero training. So I was in there, with all those guys with no training. Then I started doing the class. The very first day I went to Nick's class, that night I went to the Ramada Inn. I don't know the year or anything like that. Went to the Ramada Inn in Indianapolis, and there was a house show, spot show, whatever. And it was me, Travis Bain, Travis Tomko, Tyson Tomko, whatever you want to call him, and Danny Basham, the Damager, against Matt Morgan. It was Matt Morgan's first match.
Wow.
Um, Jen Drack and Rob Conway, and I took the big choke slam, hit my head on the ceilings at the Ramada Inn are real low, and we got Matt Morgan, who's damn near 7 foot, and me, who's about 6'5", doing a choke slam and about I don't know, a ceiling that's about 7'2". So you can imagine that. So I took the big choke slam and lost. So first day I had class, I had a 6-man with 5 contract guys. And they said, "What can you do?" And I said, "Nothing. Today is my first class." But that's what Rip would do. He would just put me in there, man. So
That's pretty cool. Like that you had like those matches before training, and then
yeah.
being a part of the battle royal and stuff, and then you also had the match on your first day of training. That's crazy.
Yep, first day.
That's really cool. Like people's first match is always an interesting story. So I always love to hear that what the first match is like for someone. If you could pick 3 matches as your favorite matches that you had in your career, what matches would you pick?
Favorite is not necessarily best, but I have to put Rip Rogers. I did a singles match with Rip, so I was actually Rip's last match. I always say I put him out of action. I say I was the legend. I was the legend killer before Randy Orton. In reality, he got ran over by a car about 3 days after our match, and he never wrestled again. But I was Rip's last match. So I got to put that in there. Probably my favorite match of all time would be me and Apoc. The ladder match, for the title, OVW Southern Heavyweight title. That's where I got my face rearranged. And then probably, man, the most fun match was probably me and Nick in a singles match. Um, it was in Muncie. So I ran these shows in Muncie when I was teaching as fundraiser. I was a coach, teacher. So he came up. Me and Nick had a singles match. He was the OVW champ at the time. And I had beat him, and all my students and players, and the place was going nuts. And then he took some nunchucks and planted them on me. So I ended up getting DQ'd. But in the middle, at the end of all that, I remember he had Melina do like a run in. I had like a kiss spot with her. And then like Carlito hit the ring, and Joey Mercury Matthews hit the ring. And I think Chris Masters hit the ring. And I'm just clearing everybody out and tossing everybody out all over the place, and turn around and take the big shot from Nick and go to. It was way overbooked, but man, it was a lot of fun. It was a very fun match. So I mean, I might be missing something, but those are the top 3 that just stand out in my mind right now.
Oh yeah, I'd definitely say those were some top 3 matches right there that you picked. And I like how you
Like,
picked
hell,
them.
you don't know all the matches I've ever had.
Right, right.
I mean, there are 3 good ones, but
Um, how
I
did
mean,
you
anytime
become?
you're saying you're wrestling, Rip Rogers and Nick Dinsmore and Apoc, who went on for about a 10-year run in the NXT and WWE. I mean, that's pretty good company, I would say.
For sure, for sure. And like to have to say that you had Rip Rogers last match, that's pretty like a pretty big deal right there.
Yeah.
I hate the way that he was hit by a car the next day, but still, it's a big deal in that sense that you got to say that you had his last match.
Yeah, we're just
And
gonna
that's
leave it that I put him
yeah,
out of action.
there we go. First ever legend killer. How did you come up with the name Vaughn Lilas?
That's funny. I don't know if anybody's ever asked me that before. Well, I know people have like off camera a couple times, but I guess I don't do a ton of podcasts. But so when I was in college, I was a baseball pitcher, and my catcher was in a band on the side. So they would have band practice, and I would go over there for band practice just because I wanted to be I wanted to be a rock star. I wanted to do something. Well, they all had band names. I remember his band name was Vark Sane. My real last name is Von Dilligan, kind of a long name, but I don't know. So he was like, "Hey," and I wasn't really in the band, but I acted like I was in the band. I'd pick up like shakers or something, just pretend I was in the band. He's like, "If you're gonna come over and do this, you gotta get a name." I was like, "All right." Vaughn Lilas. I just picked Vaughn Lilas right there and then. No idea why. So fast forward tons of years later, I started doing these shows. Well, my first name is Clint. My real name is Clint, and they would say I like introducing Clint Hillwig, like I would be, like Jim Hillwig's long lost brother, Clint Black, Clint Brown, Clint Green, you name it. They ribbed me on every name possible. So then one time, Diamond Dan Garza, he was the ring announcer, came over and said, "Hey, what's your name?" He was getting the card ready, the height and weight and town and name and all that. "What's your name?" And I just went back to my fake rock and roll day from college, and I just said Vaughn Lilas. And then he said, "Introducing whatever Vaughn Lilas," and everybody's just like looking at me, and they're like, "What? What is this name?" They're waiting on the rib name, right?
Right.
They wanted to know where it came from. I said, I gave it to him. It's my name now. And it was that ever since then. So it just stuck.
I love that. I love that. I love how
Yeah.
that came about. In summer of 2007, OVW would start a second show and brand it for the talent that were not on the main OVW show on Wednesday nights. It would be called Derby City Wrestling. How did you find out about being a part of DCW?
I was told I drove Rip Rogers to practice. He started DCW. So I believe at that time Rip was still training. I think he was the intermediate class teacher at the time, if I remember correctly. I think he had been relieved of his duties from the WWE as the head trainer at OVW. I believe at that time, was that Al Snow, maybe? I can't remember
I think so.
who was in there running OVW, but Rip was still, I mean, he was still in OVW. So he started doing the intermediate class. So he took all the guys that were under contract. I mean, that was probably, and then when the contract guys actually left, but those classes, we would have 50, 60 guys. We would we would sweat our asses off. We were there 3 to 4 to 5 hours, sometimes depending on Rip's real work schedule. I remember like we'd do Monday nights from like 8 to midnight, Saturday mornings, 8 to noon, whatever. But Derby City, I mean, I was just told I was doing Derby City. That was part of the deal. But it was awesome because we had other people that eventually started producing it, writing it, booking it. Rip kind of he got it going and did, I don't know, I'm just throwing a number out here. Let's say the first 25 weeks, 25 episodes. And then he really got hands off and let other people kind of just take over and, run the show and work on their own craft and, things like that. So Derby City was awesome, man. I loved it. I mean, it was so much fun.
I love that it gave those again those talents that weren't on the Wednesday shows, the regular OVW shows that they were on. It gave them a platform essentially, and
Well, it gave
so
him an opportunity to
right,
learn TV. I mean, it's not TV's not as always as just as easy as you think. You got to know your cameras, you got to know your times, you got to know your cues. There's a lot that goes into TV that I don't think people probably understand. So that gave a lot of people an opportunity to possibly learn or fail at that time,
Right.
learn how to get better without being on a too big a stage. I mean, even considering, even saying like OVW is a bigger stage, but if you go on to NXT, some of them went on to WWE. Some of them people from Derby City Wrestling made it to WWE, so they got a lot of experience from that Derby City. And then when the contract guys left, or when WWE pulled out and went to Florida, Danny came to everybody and said, "Hey, we're going to continue. We were OVW, before WWE came. We're going to continue to be OVW now." And so guys like me were now thrust into that scene. I remember the first show we did after contract left. I mean, that building was just packed, man,
Oh
because
yeah.
those guys, those contract guys have been drawing the crowds. I mean, sellout crowd, whatever it held, I don't know. But I just remember going through the curtain because I'd go to Derby City, there'd be 50 people in the crowd or whatever. I go, go through the curtain for OVW, and it's a whole different ball game. I was like, holy shit! Like, I felt like at that time, like, hey, I'm doing something here, But it was cool because I did have the Derby City experience, so it really helped. If I would have went out there for OVW, that first TV match with no DCW, I don't know, man. I don't know if it would have turned out the same.
Right, right. No, for sure. I understand that. Now, what was it like working with? You talked about working with Nick Dinsmore and that first match, that first singles match with him. What was that like working with him?
It was awesome, but Nick would work with a lot of guys. He was a trainer, so I think he took responsibility with a lot of guys' first matches. And I know back, when he ended up coming back, I don't know if you ever saw him like those homecoming shows
Yes.
when the amateur guys that were selling all the tickets. He would work, whoever sold the most tickets. So Nick has done this for ever. He's taken the guys that aren't any good or green or just getting started or whatever you want to call it, and wrestles them. So one, I mean, I knew how good Nick was. But yeah, just to be in there because that was the first singles match, especially against a like a legit guy, like somebody that I knew was really, really good. And it was good because I learned just to listen. You had to listen to everything he said because Nick was not a pre-planner at all. That's not, especially these kind of shows. So you just go out there and listen. As a matter of fact, we started out, we were both good guys. It was a double good guy match. Nick was the teacher, I was the student. It was just at a little, I think it was a public school, 189 or something like that in Indianapolis. And I did something where I messed something up, and Nick was like holding the ropes open so I could get back into the ring, and then he kicked the rope when I was coming through, and he turned heel and just vicious after I had messed something up. Now he wasn't taking liberties or anything like that, but none of that was planned. He just
Right.
he
Right.
just on the fly turned heel on me. It was awesome. Oh, it was just awesome, man. Nick is great.
And Nick was great. Nick is great. Yeah, for sure. How did you find out you would be forming a tag team with Apoc? And what was it like working with him as a tag team partner?
So when Apoc first got there, like in class from Canada, I was always like a chopper. I was always kind of, I don't know, aggressive, I guess. Apoc came in, and he was just one of those dudes. He started coming to class, and I was like, man, I don't want anything to do with this guy. Like I would try to stay away from him. I didn't really challenge him ever. Just didn't really know him. He was just I don't know, he just not much to it. He was, and then in DCW, he was with like Fang and Coney Carnage. I was with Mason Rage. So our paths never ever really crossed. And Apoc wasn't in real good shape when he got there. I mean, he was white and hairy and wasn't ripped like he got to be ripped. And so once he started doing some jobs, I think, for OVW during DCW. I think they called him Eric Doom or something, and he'd go up and lose to some people or whatever. But once WWE left, he really started taking his nutrition and fitness and look and everything a lot more seriously. Now, I was never like a real big guy. I always had the skinny legs, kind of lanky, whatever. But at that time too, I was taking mine as serious as I ever had, and we both kind of just became these, for what it's worth, like the biggest kind of. I don't know if the biggest, but kind of two big dudes that were pretty decent, and we both just beat people up a lot. And then it was Joey Matthews, I think eventually just put us together because I know how now that he did put us together because we were his like henchmen or whatever.
Henchman, yeah,
Because
yeah.
at that time, Joey had come back. I don't know if he had been released or something. I can't remember. He came back to OVW when he was not signed anymore and was doing all the shows. And yeah, we became his henchmen. He put us together. He put us together.
And then eventually you would end up being with Jamin Olavense would take like I guess Joey Matthews' place in a sense.
Yeah, I don't remember how that happened. Jamin ended up being with us, but then he turned on us and went with Josie and I think Cardinal and Dirty
Cardinal.
Money maybe or something. I don't know how we ever got Jamin. I don't know how that happened. I think Joey ended up just going. I know he started doing the singles. Well, I guess he was singles with us too. I don't know what. I don't know. Did he leave? Did Joey leave? I can't remember.
I, I, I honestly don't remember. I feel like he might have went to the like was doing going after the heavyweight title at that point. I feel like I
Yeah,
could be
I
wrong.
can't remember. I know he had a feud with Blair Moan or Anthony Bravado.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, I don't know if he dumped us at that time. I can't remember. But yeah, Jamin was with us for a little bit. I mean, Jamin was always a very entertaining person, great wrestler. He's probably one of the guys I would say, if you're one of the guys I would say that if you're surprised somebody didn't get signed out of that group, I would throw Jamin in there for sure. I mean, he could do everything. People always say he wasn't big enough, but man, especially looking at wrestlers today, Jamin was as big as I saw a match with him and AJ Styles. He just as big as AJ Styles. I mean,
oh
those
yeah,
two tore the house down once at this show this match I saw, and I never once looked at it and thought, man, he's not near as big as if AJ Styles can be there. Now I'm not saying talent wise. I'm not sitting here.
right,
Jamin's really good and he looked great against A. But if AJ with his build can be there, then Jamin can be there, in my opinion.
exactly, exactly. What did it mean to you to become one half of WW Southern Tag Team Champions? Not just once, but I believe twice.
Yeah, I think I was that twice in the heavyweight champ twice. I think both twice. It was cool. Look right here, man. Look at this. Just just happened to glance over.
I
Look at that.
got the. I love it.
I don't
I
know if you can
think I
see it.
have that same one. I believe it's signed. I don't remember.
Oh yeah.
I don't know for sure, but
It was cool. I don't really remember it. I don't remember. Dude, I don't even know who we beat. Did we beat DK and Lowry for the
yeah,
title?
DK and Lowry. Yeah,
Um, I remember those matches were pretty good. I like those matches. And then I can't remember. I don't know. Cardinal Money probably lost and then regained again. I don't know. Was it twice? Hell, I don't even know. It was cool, man. Anytime you get those titles, I think those were the original. I think those were the titles from back in the day. I think. Anytime you get something like that, because I grew up watching like I said, the Memphis, anything that had anything to do with the Louisville Gardens and Jerry Lawler's wrestling and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's just it's cool, man. It's cool.
for sure. Definitely a lot of history in those
Yeah.
titles too. Um, what was it like working the 30-man OVW Royal Rumble match where you would become the number one contender for the OVW Heavyweight Championship?
That's funny. That was like right after the holidays, and I had hurt my knee. God, I'd hurt my knee, and I missed some time, a little bit of time. And I remember I went to Seymour, and it was like a holiday season, and I wasn't really working out too much. I was drinking a lot of beer, eat a lot of bad food. My knee was killing me. And I remember Danny said, we're going to do that, whatever it was called, Royal Rumble, Nightmare Rumble. Was that the night? What was that called? Was it just a battle royal?
I
What?
think it might have just been a battle royal.
They did it one at a time or whatever. They did it by numbers, so it wasn't
Yes,
everybody in at the same time.
correct.
So I remember getting there, and I was a little concerned because of my knee. So I had like a knee brace on, but it was going to be like a battle royal style. So I was like, it's going to be fine. I can hide or whatever. Well, then Danny says when I get there, he's like, all right, you're starting. You're like, I was either number one or number two, but I was out there first, and you're going to win. And I was like, oh my God. So now still it's a battle royal, but it's going to be, I don't know, close to like an hour long. And I haven't wrestled for a while. My knee hurts and I've been not working out and eating like crap. So, but I got through it. I hit a lot. You can, those things is what it is. But the winner was supposed to wrestle JBL. And really that was the thing. Now I'm like, all right, now I got to wrestle JBL. Now this is awesome. And this also could be a scary night as well. So, what's JBL going to do to me? How's JBL going to treat me? JBL going to rip my head off with that clothesline of his? Is he going to be mean? You hear all this JBL stories, this, that, and the other. So, half the guys are like, "Oh, dude, that's so awesome! You get to wrestle JBL," and then the other half of the guys are like, "Dude, you're gonna have to wrestle JBL. You're gonna get your ass kicked." That kind of thing. So it was cool. So then we show up the night of I'm supposed to wrestle JBL. JBL's there. I'm pretty nervous. I'm not gonna lie. I'm pretty nervous. And they tell me that WWE won't let him wrestle because I think it was they're afraid to get hurt or just a non-contract guy or whatever. And so he went out and cut some kind of promo, and I don't even remember what he said. Wasn't gonna waste his time with me or something. But he had Apoc. I think it was Apoc.
Hmm.
I think I wrestled Apoc that night
Yeah, I remember.
instead. And which it was kind of a relief to me, but then afterwards I was like, man, I really wish I would have just wrestled JBL. Like I was ready to take whatever he was going to give. I knew I was going to get beat down, but I can say I wrestled JBL, it was going to be worth it. Get his respect. Might help me get a job in the WWE. I was thinking that way too. So I was relieved, but then very disappointed that I didn't end up wrestling. Then we hung out after. I can't remember. Somebody went, or he paid for him, sent somebody to get a couple cases of beer. And I just remember it was me and Apoc and him and a couple other guys. We just sat in Danny's office and just drank beer all night. And he just told stories and couldn't have been a more cool dude for all the horror stories you hear about him. Couldn't have been a nicer guy, man.
I remember that night because that was the night that there was a snowstorm that hit Louisville the night before or something like that.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yep.
And yeah, so
So
that
you were
was
there.
yes, I
So
was.
did they announce that night, right? That
They
he wasn't going to wrestle? You
they
went
did
there
they did,
thinking
and
he
then he
was going
cut
to
the
wrestle,
promo.
right? Is that right?
Yeah,
Yep.
he announced that he couldn't. They announced he couldn't wrestle that night, but he did the promo and yeah, came out
Still
and did
was
the promo.
there, meet and greet or whatever. Probably he
Correct.
was. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Now
Well,
you
I found out
mentioned
the same time you did.
yeah, right.
So
I know you mentioned that you use the chop a lot, which I knew that. But how did you come up with how did you decide to just use the chop a lot?
well, it was kind of one of the deals where when you get started and you've never been in the ring before and you can't do a whole lot, people just beat you to death with chops. All those battle royals I was in, you just get beat up, beat up, beat up. And finally, Rip told me, he was like, you eventually are going to have to fight back or you're just always going to get beat up. Like that's just what happens. You either start hitting back or you're just that guy. So they had a couple dummies, like workout dummies, like
Yeah,
people use for like boxing and kickboxing and stuff like that at Davis Arena that I would legitimately just literally practice on with my hand just to get ready to. And in the practice, Rip did chop practice. So, Rip did this four corner drill where you would take a guy to each corner and chop him, and then he gets to do it back to you. So the key was always to be the second guy, because when you're getting chopped first, it hurts. You're in a cold building, no crowd, no fans, no adrenaline for what's about to happen. And so you get hit 4 times, and by the fourth one, you're like so mad that you can't wait to spin that guy around and just give it all back to him as hard as you can. So once I started learning how to do it, I was really good at it. And then I started doing it back to guys to where they quit doing it to me. It got to the point to in battle royals, nobody would come to me. Like I could stand in the middle of a ring in a battle royal, and there wouldn't be anybody ever approach me in the battle royal, because they knew that I was gonna. I don't know. I just got good at it. I think it's because my arms are kind of long and lanky and stuff. Um, but once you get good at it, and I didn't do a whole bunch of other stuff either. I wasn't a good puncher. I didn't do a lot of high flying stuff. I was more of a, I don't know, ground and pound kind of guy, so it fit my style.
I agree. No, and like I'd put your chops up there with someone like someone current OVW, Cashflow. I mean, I'd totally put your chops up there with him.
I don't. Yeah, I just don't. I don't watch it, but I've been compared a lot to a lot of people compare me to a current. Is current, if there was ever anybody current wrestling, because I don't do all the flips and kicks and all that kind of stuff. People have said I like I would remind them of Gunther. That would be that style anyway.
Yeah,
So which is cool. People never knew if that style would work, but he's obviously made it work. I mean, look at him. So,
for sure, definitely.
which I think is awesome. I think it's awesome that there's a guy like Gunther that's had that much success. I think it's great.
Exactly. Yeah, same here. Can you talk about your feud working with in 2009 working with your former partner Apoc over the OVW Heavyweight Championship? That was a phenomenal feud, by the way.
Yeah, just give me cold chills, man. Yeah, dude, that was the time. That was the time of my wrestling career. That was the height for sure. Everything we did, I thought was just great. I don't know. I guess I can. I guess I can say something I did was great. I mean, that whole thing, the whole lead in, I just can't remember it all. But like, he cheated. He had the girl, the valet, and cheated, 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 cheated. Every week was something different. I remember the one week we had a show where every match on the show was a cage match. Well, me and Apoc already knew that in our feud, eventually we were going to get to a cage match. So we were like, this is going to kill. This is going to kill where we're going with our feud, because we are going to have a cage match. And we just didn't want to do what everybody else was doing. And so we did a thing where he had like a doctor's note or something, and he was on the crutches, and then he just beat me up with the crutch. He threw like powder in my face, beat me up with the crutch, and we never got in there. Well, we got back in the back after that, and I thought Danny Davis was gonna kill kill us. He was so pissed that we didn't have a cage match that night. He couldn't see straight. So we took it upon ourselves to not do the cage match, and it almost cost us never wrestling at OVW again. But um, Danny cooled down. He cooled down, and we kind of explained why we did it, and then he was fine. But yeah, we had the ladder match. We had the Falls Count Anywhere match. I remember fighting in the parking lot, fighting in the dressing room. I remember taking my boot off. I remember, just Latin, like I said, everything. It's just awesome, man. Apoc's awesome. Like he is for his look back then, or even as Victor, you wouldn't know how great of like an actual technical wrestler he is. He is one of the most sound. He could do anything. He can do any move. He can make anything look good. He's so smooth. He's so great in the ring. It was great. It was so much fun, and we beat the hell out of each other. Like we didn't take it easy
Yeah,
on each other. I mean, he'd have me down, tell me to cover up, and I'd just sit there and take it, didn't care. And then I'd yell at him for being stiff, and he would say, "I told you to cover up." So but it was fun, man. It was so much fun.
I loved those days. Those days were
Yep.
so awesome. Like I said again, great feud right there. I enjoyed it myself. Um, we last saw Vaughn Lilas at OVW 1000 in 2018. Any chance we could see a future appearance for you once again in OVW?
I don't know if anybody's looking for a 50-year-old skinny fat guy, but I don't know. What was that? Was that the 4th Street? Was that the
Yes. Hmm.
that was a lot of fun. That was with me and Nova and Power and a couple other people. I
It
can't
was
remember.
like 10 guys. Yeah.
That's when Jimmy Cornette and Rip and Danny were in the ring. We came out to heel on the OVW originals or legends or originals. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I don't know, man. OVW looks like it's going a whole different direction. I know they got the Netflix thing out. They're streaming all over the place. I've caught it a couple times, but I just don't really watch it. Looks a little rough for me, to tell you the truth. I don't know. Would I ever make an appearance? Sure. If Al needed something and wanted something and wanted me to come down there, yeah. I mean, I just wrestled in Ricky Morton, the school Morton, Ricky Morton school. A couple months ago. I've done that twice now, doing a little some kind of TV streaming deal at the school Morton in Chuckey, Tennessee. So yeah, I can still go a little bit. I'd be happy to do something in OVW. It wouldn't be anything too serious. Make an appearance, do something, sure. Will it happen? I'd give it about a 10%. You need to talk to Al Snow. That'd be a question for Al Snow.
Right. There you go. Who were some of your favorite people to work with in OVW?
Oh man, well, I already said Apoc, Nick Dinsmore, Mike Mondo. Gosh, Mike Mondo is just he's right up there. We talk about Nick. Mondo's great. Love everything about Mondo. Um, I had good times with Mason Rage. That was more DCW. That was good stuff. I don't even remember any anything. Or I didn't do a lot with him, but anything with Joey Matthews, Mercury at the time. Had a blast with him. Any kind of anything we could do with him was a lot of fun. God, I don't even remember. I don't even know, man. I can't even think. Give me some people. Tell me some people, and I'll tell you.
Let me think. What about Daryl Kelly and Josh Lowry?
They
Or
were fun. I mean, I thought we had some pretty good stuff with them. We did some different house shows with them too. They were good. They were just the young, pretty boys. They were, they didn't have the same style we did, which you don't have to have the same style, I guess, to have a good match or a good feud. I think we told a good story with them. They were the young, fiery, good-looking baby faces, and we were the old, grizzled, mean veterans. So yeah, they had a good time with him.
I don't remember. Did you ever get into the ring with Chris Cage?
I did. I did. I can't remember. Cage is awesome. I like Cage a lot. He's been on my show. Cage is great. So Cage was in that battle royal, that first one I was at in Muncie, the John Cena one. Cage was just coming from Ohio. He started in Nick's class, beginner class. He no contract, no nothing, but he was in that battle royal with me. I remember Cage was in it as a non-contract guy.
There were so many people from Theta Lambda Psi. I don't know if I said that right, but there was Theta Lambda Psi. You had the mobile homers. You
That
had
was a good group. Oh, mobile homers are
such,
great. I mean,
such a great.
Beast and Revolver, those guys are, when you get into saying, hey, these, can have a match with anybody, can call it in the ring. Those two more guys that don't plan anything out. You can just say, meet me out there, and mobile homers will figure it out, man. Those two were great. Theta Lambda Psi was fun. We didn't get to do a whole lot with them because we were both heels. We were all heels, so we didn't really do much with them. But I had beefy Brad Maddox on our show along, and we brought in
Moose. Yeah, yeah,
Moose is a surprise. So we had a little Theta Lambda Psi reunion. We can't find Lumpy Magoo anywhere though. He's
yeah.
lost and gone forever.
uh, and then what about Cardinal and Dirty Money?
Oh yeah, they were fun. I don't know. Cardinal didn't like to get chopped, so there was that. I remember one time he told me on a comeback, no chops. I said okay. And as soon as I got in there, I just started chopping him. They were fun. There was nobody really. I didn't really like not get along with really too bad. There was nobody I would typically like look at the card and be like, oh gosh, I don't want to wrestle these guys tonight. Some guys were more fun than others, but it was all just a wrestling match. So we did a whole bunch of stuff with Cardinal and Money. I mean, we had, we were doing. I remember we were doing the four corner tags with them, Los Locos, and maybe the mobile. I can't remember but we were doing a lot of
You like
stuff
mobile
with
homes?
with
Yeah,
with those guys. So yeah, it was cool. We had a lot of good tag teams at that time, man. It was cool.
there definitely were a lot of good tag teams at that time. Yes. I, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you about a favorite Six Flags Kentucky Kingdom moment.
Well, I mean, the obvious answer would be wrestling CM Punk, I would think. It was me and Apoc against Punk and Joey Matthews. I don't even. I think they called him Joey Matthews there. I
Joey
think.
Matthews. Yeah, yeah.
For me, Joey was just as big as Punk. Like, I thought Joey was awesome, man. He's another one of those guys that, I mean, he was 5 foot, whatever. But I remember going to some WWE tryouts. We'd get in the ring before like Raw or SmackDown. And Joey, you would think Joey was a 6'5" guy, the way his presence in the ring, the way he laid stuff in, the way he got heat on people. And he would teach all the guys before the shows. Everybody was listening to Joey, all the WWE guys, like maybe not the top guys, but all the guys that were, signed and stuff. So I love getting in the ring with him. So with Six Flags, we tagged against Punk and Joey Matthews. That had to be the best one. I mean, there was another one where Cena was there, but I didn't wrestle him. It was like a battle royal. I mean, the place was sold out,
Mm-hmm.
which was cool. It was the most people we ever had, which was cool. Another time, Tommy Dreamer hit me with a kendo stick there. That was cool. Um, but yeah, it had to be the Punk match. Were you there for CM Punk?
I was. Yes, yes. I was there
So
for
so that
Cena too.
so that match is never. I don't think it's ever been seen. That was when the ring truck blew up. The next day, we were going to Cincinnati for a
Oh wow.
show, and that hard drive, the disc and the hard drive, uh, caught fire. I mean, the truck melted to the ground. So that Six Flags show was on the truck, and it's never,
Wow.
to my knowledge, it's never been seen
Wow.
on tape. So if you do find a tape of that match somehow, somewhere, anybody out there in TV land listening, I don't think it exists. But if somebody has any kind of footage on a phone or anything like that, I would love it. I've never got to see the match. I would like to see the match, but never got to see it.
Dang, that's crazy.
Yep.
That's crazy that happened. There were so many good uh, moments at Six Flags and so many good Six Flags shows. I loved those shows. Is there anything you would change about your wrestling career if possible?
Probably would have started earlier. I would say got on the gas. No, probably not. I mean that's really what a lot of it was back then. Like, are you gonna, what are you gonna do to your body to make it? You don't really have to do that now. So people are a lot more fortunate, I think now. I kind of was in when I first started, me being 6'5" and 235 was tiny. I mean, you're looking at Sean O'Hare and Jindrak and Big Bad John and God, it just seemed like so many guys were 6'5", 280. That they were bringing in and signing. So I don't know. I don't know if I'd change. I mean, I would. It's all happens how it's supposed to happen. I'm happy. My life turned out good. Who knows what would have happened if I would have made it, so to speak. Some people tell me when I say I didn't make it, they get mad at me. But so I'll say I didn't sign with WWE. Who knows what would have happened? I'm happy, so I wouldn't have changed anything, I guess, really. I had a good time, man. I've met so many people, still do the podcast today. Just had a sit down interview with Gerald Briscoe. I mean, a WWE Hall of Famer, a legend in the wrestling business. So it's cool. I'm still in wrestling. I've met so many people and had such a good time. I can't complain.
There you go, and that's the big thing about it. Like that's the thing to take away from it. What is the best advice you would give to young talent or someone wanting to get into the wrestling business?
Man, I have no idea. It's so much different now. Even when I started 20 years ago, whatever it was, so much different. Um, I don't know, man. I would say, you can't even hardly say now, listen to listen to the old people because the old people nobody even likes anymore as far as their psychology goes. Everybody wants to do the flips and the leg smacks and the leg slaps. So I don't know. Maybe the advice now is get your shit in. Who knows? Like go, go 100 miles an hour. Get in with I don't know, dude. I'm out of touch in when it comes to that. I don't know what I would tell them. I mean, the only thing I would tell them, I guess, is take care of yourself because eventually this stuff is going to catch up with these guys. That's all I would say. All these guys doing all this crazy stuff, it's got to. Eventually it's going to catch up. I know how my body feels. I did nothing. So
For sure, I guess like slow down, type of thing.
they're
So
not going to slow down. Just know that these
right,
bumps, one of these days, these bumps you're going to feel. Like one of these days, you're going to feel these bumps. So,
right. Oh yeah. Can you talk about your podcast and let everyone know where they can check it out and how they can check it out?
well, can I talk about it? Sure. I mean, I'm not going to get on here without talking about it. What do you podcast is on YouTube, baby. Wrestling with Rip Rogers. Wrestling with Rip Rogers. Go right now. Subscribe. Wrestling with Rip Rogers. It's me and Rip, the hustler Rip Rogers, former OVW trainer, uh, wrestling legend. We do a weekly show. We go live weekly. We do interviews. We do reviews. We do all kinds of stuff. But we've been at it about a year and a half now. And like I said, we just did the Gerald Briscoe interview. Before that, we did One Man Gang, who was Akeem, also in WWF. So we had Ryback on. When Ryback kind of broke his silence, he came on our show live. We had Brad Maddox on. People hadn't seen him for damn near a decade. He came on our show. We've had Gail Kim. We've had Mickey James. We've had them all. You name them. We've had EC3. We've had them on.
There you go. And fans, I definitely encourage you go check out Wrestling with Rip Rogers. Go give them a follow. Go give them a subscribe, and then let them know how you enjoy their podcast as well. Definitely won't be disappointed. I watched them as well, and so you should too. Um,
Well, you might be
now,
disappointed if you don't like cuss words. He does a lot of profanity. I've been getting him to clean it up a little bit though.
right, right. Oh yeah, with Rip, that's expected. Any upcoming shows you would like to promote? Just like shows that you're gonna be on or anything?
Shows?
Yes.
No, I don't know. No shows. No shows that I want to promote. The last show I did, I actually told people not to watch it. So no, just the podcast, baby. Just watch our interviews.
Fair
No,
enough.
no
Fair enough.
shows.
How can fans find you on social media?
Vaughn Lilas on Facebook. Vaughn Lilas on Facebook. Just follow me. It's like I do a bunch of clips and I do a lot of our show clips on there too. Do that. Twitter, Vaughn Lilas. Really, it's just YouTube, baby. If you want to do anything to follow me, just get to YouTube and Wrestling with Rip Rogers. That's the follow right there. Vaughn Lilas on Facebook. I'll give you updates on when we're going live and all that kind of stuff. So that'd be a good place to go to.
There you go, fans. Go follow Vaughn Lilas on Facebook. And then, how can promoters, if they are interested in getting in contact with you to bring you in for maybe an appearance, a signing, maybe even on a show, just how can they get in contact with you?
I don't know. It'd be the Lilas Studios at gmail.com, I guess. I can I
All
can put
right.
it
Well,
in. I don't know if that'll go through. I put it in the chat right there. I don't know if that'll do anything
okay. Yeah.
for you or not, but
Yeah. No, I see it.
the Lilas, Lilas Studios at gmail.com, baby. It's the Lilas Studios at gmail.com. I'm sure I'll be getting so many emails after this show that I'll be booked from now until Christmas.
There we go. Promoters, if you're a promoter out there, go get him on your next show. Go bring him in for an appearance. I mean, he's
Yeah,
already
bring me
got
and Rip.
it's,
That's the key. I bring
yeah,
Rip. So you don't want me. You want Rip. I come with Rip. We'll come as a package deal. That way you can
yes.
get Rip Rogers there, baby.
There you go. There you go. Well, Vaughn Lilas, I'd like to thank you at this time for coming on the show. You're welcome to come back anytime, sir.
Sure, man. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Good luck to you with what we got this the final count. I didn't even know what this thing was called. The final count. I'm glad you're starting to do this in video and not just audio. It's 2023. You got to be on video, man.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
I mean, look how
Definitely.
pretty your face is. You can't hide that thing. All right.